the Madman! Welcome to another card review. We've got 11 cards to show this time. Starting with Leyline Manipulator. 4 mana, 4/5 elemental. Goodbye, Chillwind Yeti. Battle cry, if you're holding any cards that didn't start in your deck, reduce their cost by 2. This also has the elemental tag attached to it, which is a really good thing for elemental decks. I have a lot of experience with elemental mage since I played so much of free-to-play elemental mage, but I also have a lot of pessimism for elemental mage because of it. That deck was not strong enough, and elemental mage keeps picking up these value cards like the Leyline Manipulator, which goes really well with the Spellstone that it gets, but is it going to be enough value to push that value over, the question I asked so many times during the last review? Is it better than Jade Druid? Is it better than Raza Priest? Now, that said though, even if it isn't, this card could be really good after the next expansion in about 4 months. You put it in Elemental Mage, of course. Probably takes the place of Water Elemental. Typical Quest Mage. Currently uses a combination of taking the extra turn with the quest, and then a bunch of Sorcerer Apprentices and Molten Reflections and Antonidas to do infinite fireballs. With Leyline Manipulator, you can skip the quest, and you Simulacrum your Sorcerer Apprentices twice first, and then you play Leyline Manipulator on a turn before you're going to go off, or just on a turn where you have 2 Sorcerer's Apprentices which have been Simulacrumed. And then the combo is the following. You play Antonidas, you play 0 mana Sorcerer's Apprentice, 0 mana Sorcerer's Apprentice, 2 mana Sorcerer's Apprentice, and then you play your Molten Reflection on one of the Sorcerer's Apprentices, also generating a Fireball. Then you have 4, and then you just Fireball infinitely, which means you don't need the extra turn. I actually think that that's much less likely to happen than just using the usual Quest Mage itself, because with that, you have to have every single card played in such a specific way. With the Quest Mage, currently, there are ways that you can win without going infinite. Deck of Wonders. This is the Mage meme card of the set. Shuffle 5 scrolls into your deck when drawn, cast a random spell. I think this card is overcosted by about, like 2 or 3 mana. It's just so slow. And at least Yogg-Saron was immediate and random, because then you could catch up from a bad position. But Deck of Wonders, you can't control when the spells go off unless you draw out your whole deck first, then you play Deck of Wonders. But at least the card is a very good callback to one of the iconic artifacts of Dungeons & Dragons, the Deck of Many Things. It's kind of fun in Dungeons & Dragons, I guess it's kind of fun in Hearthstone. Sucks for competitive play though. Unstable Evolution, a really cool card for Shaman. 1 mana, transform a friendly minion into one that costs 1 more. Repeatable this turn. The way that's repeatable is when you cast it, you get Unstable Evolution back in your hand. So you can keep casting Unstable Evolution as you would like on your minions. The dream of this card is to do something around the lines of turn 1, play your Bloodsail Corsair, get the patches, and then coin Unstable Evolution on one of your minions. It turns into a Sorcerer's Apprentice, or a Radiant Elemental. At present time, it's about a 2% chance to do that. And then you Unstable Evolution your other card all the way into a 10-drop. Now, past those, unlikely situations though, this card is kind of very similar to Forbidden Shaping from Priest. You can always use it to just get a minion of your choosing and your size, very flexible. And it goes in Shaman, so you can always press the totem button for 2, even if you have no minions. It has other utility uses, like you can do a full evolve on your board with multiple minions, which heals as well. You can evolve a minion twice, and then be like, okay, I'm good with that, I'm going to evolve my other minion now. So yeah, really flexible card. The only question is this type of utility, is it costing too much, especially compared with Evolve, which is just 1 mana, blanket evolve all of your minions, which is a much bigger discount on Unstable Evolution. We'll see. This does strike me as a value card, but hard to see whether or not you can get that much value out of this card. Evasion! 2 mana. After your hero takes damage, become immune this turn. Rogue gets even more durability and a very sneaky way to dodge damage. Evasion's best uses are against a wide board, because if your token druid opponent has played 6 minions out and buffed them all, and they're all at 3 attack, if you play Evasion, then they can only hit you with one of those minions for, let's say, 3 damage, and then you dodge 15 damage. Wow. Now the question is how you're going to win after that sort of situation has come up, since Rogue AoE is lacking. And also that was using the most optimistic situation. For Rogue, where you're still looking in a bad spot because you spent 2 mana on a secret on the turn that they have 18 damage on the board. But that's theoretically the best use. Prevent dying the turn before you die. Unlike Ice Block, you can't just set it and forget it, which is very tough because the turn that before you want to die, you probably want to try to clear the board or something, and spending 2 mana on like preventing death, and not even necessarily preventing death in a few situations because you still take damage once. So all in all, a very tricky secret to use successfully. It doesn't even work with Mill Rogue because you still take fatigue on your turn since secrets only operate on the opponent's turn. But it's a cool card, and it does combine well with the other secret of Sudden Betrayal, because with Sudden Betrayal they want to hit you with a weak minion first. With Evasion they want to hit you with a strong minion first. The only question is whether or not these secrets are even strong enough to warrant inclusion in your deck in the first place. Elven Minstrel, 4 mana, 3/2. Combo, draw 2 minions from your deck. Holy cow, that is one powerful card. Closest comparison to draw 2 seems to be Arcane Intellect, which is a pretty strongly played deck even in the tempo version of Mage. So the fact that it's bundled with a 3/2 and you only pay 1 more mana for it, that is pretty powerful, because it's not just Arcane Intellect and pay 1 mana for a 3/2. It's kind of similar to 1 mana, also draw a 1 mana 3/2 and play it immediately, which is different. That's why bundling is so powerful. So it's kind of like 4 mana, draw 3, one of which is a 0 mana 3/2, is the way to think about it. It's really important to take account into the effect of bundling, is my point. That's why this card is so powerful. And rogues have so many great minions they want between Vilespine Slayer and Bone Mare and, you know, just all the stuff. Tempo Rogue isn't the only deck that's good in, it's just a general value card. You might put it into Control Miracle Rogue in order to draw the Gadgetzan Auctioneer and just your general good cards, like you have Swashbuckler in that deck anyways. This is a good card for all rogue decks, it seems. Skull of the Man'ari, the Warlock entry for this week. 5 mana, 0 attack, 3 durability weapon. At the start of your turn, summon a demon from your hand. No, you do not lose durability when the demon is summoned. Now, unlike the Warlock quest, you're summoning at the start of your turn instead of the end of your turn, which is a big difference because this card does nothing the turn you play it. But after you play it, it's giving enormous returns. If you summon the 9 mana demon, the 3/9 taunt, then you've just saved yourself 4 mana. And that is an effect that keeps repeating over and over again. So if you've got big demons, this could be a card that you put into your deck. I could see it. Now, there's a lot of fear that this is going to be just oozed and Harrisoned, and that's a legitimate concern. But the question is, are we going to go into that meta? That will require seeing the other weapons of the set and the other legendary weapons of the set. Nice bonuses is that minions of charge, such as Doomguard, and with drawbacks, such as Pitlord, will get put into play without the drawback. The warrior cards this time around, we've got a set of 4 control warrior cards. First off, Drywhisker Armor. 2 mana 2/2 battle cry for each enemy minion, gain 2 armor. Drywhisker Armor is a card you don't want to play on turn 2, unlike Armor Smith, but it can gain you a bunch of armor right when you need it. Kind of like Antique Killbot maybe, and it costs a lot less than Antique Killbot. It's going to be pretty common for your opponent to have 3 minions on the board, or maybe 4, and then you're spending 2 mana to not only gain 6 or 8, but you're also getting a 2/2 with it, which is a pretty good deal. Occult Apothecary would be the comparison, but I compared it with the Antique Killbot because that's actually a card that was played in the past. Against aggressive decks, this card is amazing, but against tempo decks, they will just hit you again on the next turn for a lot of damage. Are you against a tempo deck or are you against an aggressive deck? We'll see. But a cool combination tool with Reckless Flurry. Warrior gets another Area of Effect card. 3 mana spell, spend all your armor, so you lose all your armor. Deal that much damage to all minions. Combos with the Drywhisker Armor. Combos with other frequently played cards such as Shield Block. Bring it on, that's 5 mana, deal 10 damage to all minions. It's kind of like board wiping everything. In the worst case, you can always at least spend 5 mana, deal 2 damage to all minions by pressing Armor Up and Reckless Flurry. It's not the best use for it, but sometimes you have to. Now the question is whether or not this is actually going to see play over Sleep with the Fishes, which is a very strong AoE right now also. So which board clear is better? Will Reckless Flurry not see play because Sleep with the Fishes is in the meta? We'll see. I'm actually leaning more towards the Sleep with the Fishes version is better, but we do have to see all the cards that might have to do with armor. From my experience in playing Dead Man's Hand, I might consider putting in a Reckless Flurry instead of a Brawl, in the case that you have 2 Brawls. Unidentified Shield gains you 5 armor and gains a bonus effect in your hand. Gain 10 more armor, Tower Shield plus 10. Wow, that's some serious enchanting on that. So gain 15 is pretty terrible in general for pretty much every deck, and you would probably put this in a control deck. Serrated Shield, gain 5 armor, deal 5 damage. That's Holy Fire except better because it's armor instead of health. You can max out past that, and you can actually spend the armor for stuff such as Reckless Flurry. Ruined Shield, that's probably the best one. It is the Shield Maiden of past 6 mana 5/5 gain 5 armor. But in the tempo metagame, this might be too slow. Since a 6 mana 5/5 isn't impactful enough, and tempo kind of just ignores your health gain and clears your board and then hits you for a lot. And they still have minions. And then finally, the Spiked Shield, which is Arcanite Reaper basically. And you gain 5 armor along with that. I think all options are bad. And even the best option is kind of weak, so I'm not seeing this one, man. Sometimes you just get absolutely hosed by getting the Tower Shield plus 10, which is absolutely useless against control decks and often not very useful against tempo decks since it just stalls for a turn and doesn't really accomplish that much. At least you can always identify this card as 5 dust. We have Geosculptor Yip, 8 mana 4/8 legendary. At the end of your turn, summon a random minion with cost equal to your armor up to 10. So this card is meant to be put into the Control Warrior as of old. If you have the armor already when you play Geosculptor Yip on turn 8, you could get the 4/8 and a 10 drop immediately. And if the opponent doesn't have the clear for it, you could generate even more value with Geosculptor Yip because this is at the end of your turn. Question is, are you going to have the tools to survive until then? And then is Geosculptor Yip's payoff enough? I think Geosculptor Yip's payoff is great if you can play it on turn 8 without any extra combo. So like the general build-up you have, you actually intend to get 10 armor by turn 8 and then you play the Geosculptor Yip. Maybe your board state is decent enough to like actually have Yip have a fighting chance of staying alive. It does have 8 health, that's a lot. Get your 10 drop. Doesn't even have to be a 10 drop. Like even if you're getting a 6 drop, 8 mana is pretty good value for a 4/8 plus a 6 drop. It reminds me a lot of Rotface, where in theory you can get a lot of value with it, but maybe in practice you don't. We'll see whether or not warriors get the tools required in order to survive more of the early game, maybe get a bit more card draw. And it seems like they have pretty good AoE right now. What they seem to be lacking at the moment is something to survive the early game, as in single target removal and card draw. That's the 2 things Control Warriors seem to be lacking at the moment. And we finally end with the neutral card that is out this week. This card is so mind-boggling that when I saw the card, I had to take to Twitter, post the card, and include 280 question marks in it. 5 mana 1/1 Furbolg Mossbinder battlecry, transform a friendly minion into a 6/6 elemental. I guess we'll list the positives first. In theory, you could think of it as kind of Bone Mare. If you have a 1/1 in play, then you are paying 5 mana for 6/6 of value, because the 1/1 gets +5/+5, and then you have a 1/1. Even better is you play it on a card with a negative death rattle, and then you transformed it. It doesn't even have charge because the minion gets transformed into an elemental, which means that, you know, that minion has summoning sickness now, or it's sleeping the turn it comes into play. The card is mind-boggling bad is all I can say. You can evolve the 5 mana card of the Furbolg Mossbinder, but there are a lot of better cards that aren't currently seeing play in Evolve Shaman. Such as Nerubian Prophet, which is a 6 mana, could eventually get reduced down to 0 mana, and then you could like evolve that, but that doesn't see any play at all. It's so far worse than Doppelgangster that it boggles my mind. I don't know why this doesn't cost 4 mana. It probably should. It's not even power creep on Big Time Racketeer. It's worse than Big Time Racketeer. And Big Time Rocketeer does cost 6 mana, and you're getting a 1/1 and a 6/6. But this one, you have a requirement of having a friendly minion in play. This is the type of card that I dislike because it's so far under the power curve that I feel like it should just cost 1 mana less. And then maybe it's a slightly interesting card. The card would not be that powerful even if it were 4 mana. We end on a disappointment, but a lot of interesting cards here. Will Control Warrior be great again? Will Elemental Mage get the power it needs with the Leyline Manipulator on its side? Will Tempo Rogue become even more insane with Elven Minstrel? Find out as we look at more cards in the future.